Our intro music is provided by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com.
For the best in paranormal talk radio, you're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio with Gary.
Well, here I am tonight. We got our guest, steve-bassett, or Steve Bassett, I should say. We're going to be talking about what's going on with the government, what's going on about conspiracies about UFOs, and, well, do UFOs actually exist? And are we going to be informed shortly in the next year or two that they do exist? And, you know, I just can't believe how the government could think we're all so naive just to kind of, you know, let us think all this time and brainwash us that they never exist. I mean, I just can't believe it. Hey, Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine.
Well, I hope your weather is as good as we're having up here in Gig Harbor, Washington. It actually was halfway decent here today.
I'm down in the LA area. It was better than decent today.
Oh, wow. So why don't you tell the audience out here, the listeners, what you do?
I'm a political activist addressing the extraterrestrial issue. I formed an organization, or formed an entity called Paradigm Research Group in 1996 to engage the issue politically, not scientifically. Even though it's called Paradigm Research Group, it's not a research group. It's not a research organization. And the goal from the very beginning was to resolve the issue politically, because scientifically it wasn't going to work. We had plenty of science, the government simply ignored it. And that resolution really can only come in one form. There's only one thing that resolves the issue so that we can move to the next level, and that is disclosure, what we now call a formal acknowledgement of the extraterrestrial presence by heads of state of government. It's not small d, it's a capital D, it's an event, it's specifically defined. There is no other definition of as we use it in the advocacy work. And that announcement, which will probably start with a single head of state and then be immediately confirmed by other nations in short order, has not happened yet. But there's a lot of developments of late that indicate that we may be closer than ever. And I have some optimism about next year, not this year, but 2019 could be the year that we finally get that announcement. And then we're in the post-disclosure world. And Lord knows, we could talk for days about what could happen then.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how long, you know, the government expects us to be so naive, you know, not just our government, but all the governments. I mean, I do know, like, countries like Brazil and Russia are a lot more open to their public, you know, to their citizens about UFOs. And I know, like, in Russia, if I read it right, they report, the news media reports sightings of UFOs.
The American media does the same. The other countries have made contributions, released files. Some of the militaries have worked with, quote, UFO researchers. It's not about UFOs. I avoid the term as much as possible. It's about extraterrestrials. But the United States initiated the truth embargo. It was the originator of it and the principal maintainer. Its allies went along with it. Post-World War II, no surprises there. And it's a legal policy for national security reasons. It's not that they think we're naive. They know we're not, but they had to contain this issue in the early days. They didn't know it was coming. Many of our military intelligence people, the top people after World War II, assumed there would be a third world war, because that's what we do. Hold wars, and world wars were becoming quite popular. And it would be nuclear. So they really had a serious dilemma. And in the middle of all this, ETs escalate their activity and become much more visible, and there are sightings everywhere. And then we have a crash vehicle in Roswell, and they've got that. And they decided that this has to be absolutely, completely classified until they know more and perhaps see where the situation with the Soviet Union goes. what happened is that we didn't have a nuclear Third World War, which is not yet.
Now, hey, Stephen, I don't want to interrupt you. What are you on a record phone, or are you going through a microphone or something? Because you're coming through.
I'm sorry. My microphone, which it slipped underneath my chin. I think you'll find it's better now.
A little bit.
Better?
A little bit. You're still
okay.
A little bit distorted, but not like you were. You were getting pretty bad there for a while.
Yeah, forgive me. Yeah, the old mic just slipped underneath there. What they didn't know and couldn't have known was we were going to have what we now know as a Cold War based on mutual assured destruction. It would last for 44 years. It would involve ultimately 8 nations. And at the peak around mid-1980, there was something like 86,000 nuclear weapons, enough to completely destroy humanity many times over. So the idea that the ET presence would just be tossed out there while we were dealing with potentially annihilation in minutes, should there be a launch of weapons, was simply not going to happen. And so the truth embargo, which they maintained very, very effectively, by 1991 was institutionalized, meaning everybody just went along with it. It was what you did. Nothing shocking about that. There's a huge number of things in our society which are institutionalized, and we just go along with them, like stopping at stop signs.
Oh, yeah.
You don't need to get reminded every day by the government. You need to stop at that stop sign. You just do it. And that made a problem, because after the Cold War ended, undoing that embargo was not going to be easy. It needed just the right circumstances. And over the last 27 years, those circumstances have not come together yet. It's been a very complicated 27 years, though we haven't had another world war. We had plenty of other wars, of course. And so that's a very short explanation of why this embargo is still in place. It's extremely complicated. I know people want to reduce it to some simple ideas and explanations. It's not simple. But I appreciate that, because other people have lives to lead. All I have to do is follow and deal with this issue 24/7.
Well, you know what I thought was really strange and I maybe got this wrong, but if I remember right, when we had the Secretary of the Air Force addressing, the cadets recently, I could take it several different ways, but he mentioned that we won't have another ground war. We won't have another world war. The next major war is going to be out in outer space. And you can sit there and take that so many different ways.
It was a stupid remark.
It was very stupid.
And he should be embarrassed. But he is a warrior. That's what he knows. What he was likely referring to is the fact that the advanced countries like the United States, China, Russia, and so forth, are increasingly dependent upon space-based communications and so forth. And so if one could attack those, one could really affect these other countries. Now, there would be acts of war, which theoretically could trigger a nuclear response. So him talking about the next war is going to be in space is simple-minded saber-rattling. And I think he did it at a commencement address. Was it a commencement address for the class?
Cadets. Yeah, for the cadets, yes.
Well, I hope he regrets it, and that's not what we need. There are many ways we could have the next war. It could be in space. It could be in China. It could be a nuclear exchange. It could be anything. He's talking big wars, because we always have small wars going on all the time.
Yeah, like 24/7.
There's been a war going on constantly in this world, every day, as far as I know, going all the way back to World War II. I don't think we've ever gone a year where there wasn't a war in the world, and often there may be 2, 3, 4. There have been a couple of major proxy wars, naturally. It's been a century of slaughter, and the extraterrestrial issue has been manifest and in parallel with this age of slaughter, and that's not an accident. There is a connection between the two. Again, one has to be circumspect when they hear remarks like that. I don't know what the next war is going to be. If we're lucky, we'll never have another next war, but right now the focus is on getting disclosure, and hopefully that will change things.
Well, I know you for many years have, been working your butt off to try, get the government to, release information. And I take it they just, stonewall you and everything else that they could ever do?
I don't think of it as me against the government. I've been an advocate pursuing disclosure and trying to facilitate and help create a situation. They're stonewalling everybody, not just me. Their position is that there is no evidence that the phenomenon is that there is an extraterrestrial presence. There clearly are UFOs, but that's a tautology. Anything in the sky you can't identify as a UFO. So that's in term UFO needs to go as well. It's useless. It was a propaganda term from the beginning, and it's absurd. That's why you're seeing people try to use the term a UAP. It's not as fun to use because it doesn't end in a vowel. You can't attach things to it. Unidentified, and some people say unexplained aerial phenomena is a better term. But in fact, it is an explained phenomena, meaning that some of these sightings are in fact extraterrestrial craft filled with extraterrestrials.
Oh,
which is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, now I hate to say it again. You're starting to distort again. But that's
really.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying here. Go up here.
But I've had. Go ahead.
Yeah, good. I'm going to go take off the regular mic, and I'm going to go to the phone.
Okay.
Different. And if it is, then we'll stay with that. Let me know.
Okay, let me adjust my gain here for you. So if you talk a little bit there, I can adjust everything.
Yeah. Let me see if the phone mic is stronger.
Oh, yeah.
Than the headset that I...
Yeah, and you're not distorting at all.
Good. Very good. Then we'll stick with that.
Okay. I just get frustrated. I mean, it's just like I've had so many people contacting me, because right now it seems like this past year, the UFOs have just, picked up people talking about, unidentified objects way more than they have in years. I mean, it went through a cycle where it kind of was dying off. And then all of a sudden, I think since the release of the Navy, of the two pilots chasing something, and when that happened, it started bringing the whole thing back out to where people started talking about it more again.
Actually, there was never really a pullback. The phenomena was constantly going and constantly being engaged. That was just some skeptics thinking that they could make a point on that, so it didn't fall off. And what's happening now is not a resurgence of sightings, though there are plenty of sightings. What's happening now is that the concept of disclosure is taking hold finally, and people are focusing on that.
Well, I think it's about time, that we should know what's going on. And I think it's about time. I hate to say it, the government should be honest with us. And I know a government is never going to be totally honest with, the citizens. They can't be because of national security. But how long can you deny something